Ah, there we go. Screen's a little cleaner. Cleaner. Screen is a little cleaner. City is a little quieter. Between 2 and 3 in the morning. The nation's capital as America counts down to potentially another conflict in the Middle East, with now what they're saying is the largest military buildup of ships, planes, bombs, missiles, anti-aircraft paraphernalia, bombers, fighters, and everything else. Drones, materials, resources, supplies. Since the 2003 buildup, before I said since the 1991 buildup, when America built the kind of false plant to try to trick Saddam Hussein into thinking we were going to invade from the water. They're saying now this is the largest military buildup in the Middle East since 2003, when the U.S. obviously had to put a lot of stuff in place in order to prepare for the invasion of Iraq that ultimately did very quickly topple Saddam Hussein. The Iraq War of 2003 is long remembered as having been a bit of a failure for the United States, but the reality is the military component of it, the part that toppled Saddam Hussein, was actually extremely quick and far quicker and actually less deadly. There's not a rat. The rats are back out amid the extreme cold that has befallen DC. It's getting a little bit warmer, which I guess means the rats are starting to make their way back. But the 2003 Iraq War, from a military standpoint, was actually very quick and decisive and non-deadly, as America was able to take out basically the entirety of the country in less than 3 weeks, including seizing Baghdad and fully toppling the regime. Of course, it was many months until the U.S. actually captured up Saddam Hussein, but it was a very, very, very quick fall for the regime. Everyone remembers Baghdad Bob claiming it would not happen. The media spokesperson for the Iraqi government, and then it did. And so the U.S. is prepared, apparently, if it wants to fully be able to take out the Iranian regime and or many other potential military options. Now, they are what the hell's going on here? You know, like, we come out to stream at 3 in the morning, and who the hell knows? You know, weird stuff. Anyway, welcome to Land Speculation on YouTube, guys. Jeanette and Calming Chaos and Quiet Castle. And, you know, others, I suppose, really working out there. And anyway, yeah, we're not sure. I mean, the thing is, like, we're prepared to, you know, if the negotiations here with Iran break down, it sounds like they're not going super well so far. I guess we are prepared for the ability to do a giant, you know, war with them to take out their entire regime if necessary. We're good at that kind of stuff. You know, apparently we have all their leaders identified. We know exactly who is where, and we could take out like hundreds of people that are in significant positions of power there very, very, very quickly. At least so the military is telling us. And it's kind of interesting because at the same time everyone's kind of confessing that, like, if we were to do that, nobody really knows what would happen next. Nobody really knows exactly who would take control in Iran. I guess there's like an Iranian Revolutionary Guard. If you want to create like a scary sounding force in your country, the Revolutionary Guard. Didn't Iraq have something like that too? I guess that's who would take command. I don't know if that would be any better than the current regime in Iran. But that's, I guess, what we think would happen is like hardline. It wouldn't really change a whole lot, would it? I mean, it would be weaker, I guess, than the current regime, and the country would be destabilized, which is probably not the greatest thing. But you would have like hardliners still in charge. It's not like suddenly you take out the president of a country and like suddenly the whole thing just falls apart. It's sort of tempting to want to believe that, but the thing is, we don't really know what would happen, and it's kind of a guessing game, which is sort of exciting. Like, maybe it would be great, and Iran would suddenly fall into the international order, and everything would be wonderful once again. The New World Order that George H.W. Bush had long envisioned in 1991 of a community of nations that all were happy and get along and do the right thing would finally come to pass, and one more bad actor would be down for the count, and everything would be nice once more in the Middle East, and Iran would go back to being the kind of flourishing garden of intellectual Eden that everyone says it was back in like the 6th century before Islamic conquest arrived. But we don't really know. We don't know what would happen, and that's kind of the excitement of getting to do a big international military operation on the other side of the world. And yeah, it's like the economy's kind of humming along here. We got midterm elections coming up. Mamdani has taken over in New York, and we're experimenting with socialism, which is very exciting. And we can talk a little bit about the details of that, because that's been pretty fun. Seeing how that's playing out so far with his countervailing threats of a giant real estate tax and/or huge taxes on the wealthy that would probably drive a lot of wealthy out of New York. So those things are going on, and Europe is continuing to sort of melt down, and we have more Epstein stuff. Les Wexner was testifying about Jeffrey Epstein. Talk a little bit about that. Anyway, we won't go for very long here. This is just a little short outdoor walk, and just wanted to check in with folks and say hi. So, yeah, it's very quiet. Very quiet. It's still cold. As usual, there's like random shouting from different directions, and makes you feel a little unsettled. It's kind of the nature of the nation's capital in the middle of the night. So, welcome to the nation's capital in the middle of the night. If you are just joining us, I appreciate it. Likes and subscribes on the videos, much appreciated. Those likes help us out with YouTube. The subscribes help you guys know when we're on. Check our description for the links to our Discord and the link to our Duck Fund. The Discord, of course, is our 24/7 chat platform. The Duck Fund is our Buy Me a Coffee link. You can also check our description for the link to our sister channel, Land Ducks International, which, man, I queued up a lot of stuff there. So stuff continues to upload even as I've been busy. And every night, I'm surprised by seeing what pops up there. So, yeah, check that stuff out. It's going even when we're busy. Thing about DC is you kind of take stuff for granted sometimes, and we're just chit-chatting away here as we walk by, one of the most historic sites in the history of our country, which is the site where Abraham Lincoln was assassinated here at Ford's Theater, right in front of us as we walk by. So, second-story balcony right there. In the theater is where Abe Lincoln was taken out by John Wilkes Booth. And as a result, they have done their very best to not really do any really big renovations to the doors or the front walls or anything of the theater, so it kind of feels like you're stepping back in time here. And you can still go to plays there at Ford's Theater. It's kind of a weird experience because you sit there and you watch a play, which could be a perfectly modern play, and everyone's in there giggling away and having a grand old time, except that there's one balcony on the second floor that is cordoned off and is full of a bunch of framed pictures of Abraham Lincoln, sort of like it's the commemorative site where he was had his head more or less blown off. in 1865. It's a little weird, a little bit of a weird juxtaposition. And then there is the site across the street where his body was taken, and that sort of split level house, and he was taken onto the second floor there, or the sort of 1.5-ish floor. Took his body up those stairs into the bedroom there, in those two windows we're staring directly at, and that's where he languished for like 13 hours and then eventually succumbed to his injuries. Probably was more or less unconscious for that whole time. All right, well, Arctic Cockway, it's good to see you guys. See you, Jerry Carter. Man, we have like more people in the chat than we do likes on the video. That's concerning. Usually there's like a few lurking listeners that are dropping likes. Must be really pissing people off today. What did we do? Sorry to make people angry. Well, it's quiet now. It's like really quiet. It's a little weird being in. Like other cities are not like, you know, maybe smaller cities, but like I used to live in downtown Chicago. It was never quite this quiet in the middle of the night. It's quiet in the middle of the night, but DC is uniquely quiet, at least in parts, in the middle of the night. Always seems to be someone screaming in DC at 2 in the morning. Yeah, what is that? Like, why is that the thing? Like, people are always just sort of randomly screaming. Like, it's always like about a block away, there's somebody like randomly screaming. It is a weird phenomenon here. I don't know why. I mean, in part, it's not totally random. I mean, part of it is because the situations of like mentally unwell people that sort of maraud the streets of the city is handled in a very unique way in DC. Nobody ever really gets arrested for like, I've been in restaurants in downtown DC where you're sitting there like eating a meal. You know, this is sort of blue state America. You sort of sit there and you eat like a really fancy meal at a very fancy restaurant. Everybody's sitting there like, you know, twirling their fork over some like very fancy, you know, pesto tagliatelle. And everyone's sort of, you know, enjoying how cultured we all are. And you're sitting there and suddenly like in the middle of your meal, you'll have like a crazy person. I mean, I presume a crazy person, somebody that just has some kind of issue, will sort of like enter the restaurant and just start like screaming some kind of like incoherent bunch of obscenities. Not in a way that is particularly physically threatening, although sometimes that's part of it, but usually just like there's something going on in their head and there's like a delusion happening, or something is going on that is causing them to have a very strange episode. They sort of wander into like a restaurant. The restaurant will be forced to like call the police, and the police will show up, and the, you know, heavily uniformed DC police, Metropolitan Police will show up, and they will confront this situation, and they will, you know, tell the person like, you can't be here in the restaurant, like you've got to get you know, you can't be like intimidating people and, you know, assaulting them here in their dinner time and stuff. And so what they will do is they will take the person outside, they will kind of walk the person about a block away, and then that's it. Then they'll let them go, and that's it. So the person will then sort of continue about the routine of, you know, having whatever sort of episodes they're having just about a block away from where they were having it and disturbing people. And so they'll find another place, and they'll go into that place, and then it'll sort of repeat a few times. But this, like, there's very, like, rarely is there actually any help offered, rarely is there an arrest that's made. The people just kind of get moved, you know, a block here, a block there. That's kind of the city policy, the district policy. And it is, yeah, it's kind of a, I don't know, maybe that sort of accounts for why you have these like random seeming thing where there's like every block or so, there's like a random person screaming about a block away. All right. 1991 war was even quicker. Well, the 1991 war didn't take out the entire regime. 1991 war had much narrower scope than the 2003 war. 1991 war had far higher casualty count than the 2003 war, at least for the military portion. And by all accounts, the 2003 war, from a military standpoint, was, a more efficient and lean operation than 1991. I thought this was a prayer vigil for peace, says Arctic Cockwe. Sure, it can be. I mean, I guess we could do that. Let's see. Iran says Russia is backing them, but Russia is pretty overwhelmed with their own long war. Yeah, Russia won't do anything. The U.S. decides to do a bunch of bombing in Iran. Russia, I don't know. Russia will be like, nothing will really happen from the Russia end, I don't believe. Let's see. Bad actors in Hollywood? I don't know. What's that? What does that mean? What's going on in Hollywood these days? Should I just start screaming as loud as I can? I mean, that's an interesting experiment. I don't think I'm going to do it, but it would be interesting if I just stopped like right here in the middle of Washington, D.C., very close to a federal building, and just started like screaming my lungs out. What would happen? What would happen? How much attention would I get? How long would it take for somebody to do something? I suspect kind of what would happen is I would be confronted by one of the federal security guards that is guarding one of these various federal agencies. I assume, based on where we are, probably somebody from the DOJ or the IRS who would confront us, and they would probably try to talk to us if I just kept screaming. They would probably call in for backup. I don't know if the backup would be somebody federal or whether it would be DC Metropolitan Police, and probably, I don't know, probably they would eventually get me to stop screaming, but assuming I just kept screaming, I don't know what would happen. Let's see. I thought you contribute to DC with your other end at 2 in the morning? Like, you take a dump on the streets of DC at 2 in the morning? I mean, we have seen people taking dumps on the streets of DC. I've never seen it at 2 in the morning. Of course, it's dark at 2 in the morning. I think on one of our very early streams, we actually got video of somebody taking a dump on Pennsylvania Avenue. I haven't actually gone back and checked that early video, but I'm almost positive that we got brief footage of somebody taking a dump on Pennsylvania Avenue back, during this sort of pandemic peak. Interesting stuff. These giant frickin' bollards everywhere. These giant, big planter boxes. The security complex in DC. I rant about it constantly, and it's out of control. There's too much security in DC. I say that as somebody who is like innately pro-security. There's too much security in downtown DC. When I go to the fair, I always try to avoid the John Wilkes booth. Yeah, that's the booth where you line up, you pay $1, and somebody shoots you in the face. Yeah, it's not a very good deal. It's kind of a rip-off, kind of a blow-off, Man. Noisy steam tunnels there. We're walking on Constitution Avenue, where these big steam tunnels that are used to ferry the bodies of the young children before they get blown up on the roof of the FBI headquarters. So they're big tunnels. All right, they said Lincoln was too tall for the bed they put him on. Yeah, beds were small back in those days. A lot of stuff was small back in those days. Abraham Lincoln was a big dude. And he wasn't just like, everybody thinks of Abraham Lincoln as this tall, awkward, lanky dude. He was actually a pretty sturdy built guy. So yeah, he was, I mean, the bed wasn't custom built for him, I guess is the point. It was just somebody's house. Bring back mental institutions. You know, if somebody paid for me to go take a couple months vacation to just like relax in a kind of hotel environment with, you know, paid meals and somebody to like talk to about all of my problems every day, it's not the worst deal. I mean, that's kind of a nice sort of thing. If anybody wants to, like, you know, just set that up for me, like, I might do that. Jerry Carter goes into restaurants and yells, "Hold the mayo." People look at him funny. I mean, it's especially funny if you didn't order something that was supposed to have mayo on it. Then it's just really weird. Stop all food aid to ducks. Yeah, no, that's like the one government program I'm completely for is just mountains and mountains of bread to feed rogue duck populations and make them extremely gluttonously, deliriously happy and overweight. Colin of the Chaos is asking, what's happening? Well, we were kind of talking about that. I mean, should I recap everything? Like, we're waiting for a big war with Iran, which it's kind of a new one. We haven't really done like the full war with Iran yet. You know, it's sort of a new place, a new adventure, a new geography, a new kind of boondoggle to get ourselves tied up in over in the other side of the world. Something to keep the big defense contractors nice and happy. You know, could be kind of exciting. So Les Wexner says Jeffrey Epstein was just a con artist who scammed him out of a bunch of money and his power of attorney. If Les Wexner really was just getting like scammed by Jeffrey Epstein the whole time, and Jeffrey Epstein was such a sweet talker that he convinced Les Wexner to give up his power of attorney as somebody who had like $7 billion to his name. First of all, that's a lot of talent by Jeffrey Epstein to convince Les Wexner to do that. And also, like, what a dupe. What a dupe Les Wexner was. Or is, or whatever. He's like 90 years old now. Or so, you know, doesn't that seem like kind of a weird thing if you have like $7 billion to your name to just like let a random guy who sweet talks you like have full access to your entire set of assets? That's the claim of Les Wexner, that he too is a victim of Jeffrey Epstein's. And, you know, I get everybody's trying to sort of shore up their story here, you know, get their ducks in a row, make it sound like they did the least nefarious things they could. I actually kind of believe Les Wexner. I just think, like, it's not the greatest reflection on him at this point. YouTube personality land speculation found unconscious behind local house of ill repute. I don't think I would characterize the Abraham Lincoln death house as a house of ill repute. It's just a sort of tragic historical venue. We're here at the National Archives, playing with the columns. There should be cameras everywhere. Yeah, people get really like paranoid about cameras and stuff, and it is kind of a weird thing because it's like, well, if you're not doing anything illegal, why would you be that upset? And I think the the secret truth why people are getting all upset about the cameras is like everybody's kind of worried that they're going to accidentally do something like a little bit illegal, and then they don't want to get punished for it. Like when you're driving, how often do you like go for a drive where you don't accidentally do something along the way that's like just a little bit illegal? Like where you run a yellow light a little too tight, or you don't leave whatever it is 100 200 feet before before you're changing lanes before an intersection, or where you like maybe you turn your lights on like a second or two after you start driving, or there's like you're always doing something that's just a little bit illegal when you're driving. And so people get worried because having the cameras would cause you to be punished for all kinds of things that really weren't like, you weren't really intending to do something meaningfully illegal. You were just trying to sort of like skirt things a little bit, very briefly, because like the law is stupid. And I guess people also worry that like, someday, if you've committed some great nefarious offense, that the government's going to track you down using its network of millions of cameras all over your city. And it is a little disconcerting. I mean, I've been in parts of the world where they have cameras basically everywhere, and it's kind of a weird thing. Man, there's still really big snow piles everywhere. I thought it has been like enough above freezing that you would think this stuff would be starting to melt by now. By the way, guys, is the thing just like stuck on my end? Like, what are we doing to piss people off so much? Why do we have so few likes on this video? Man, you come out streaming at like 3 in the morning, and it's like you just want people to shower you with love and praise, and you guys are all like, no, we hate you, we dislike the video. No, do whatever you want, but I was like, look at that. It's like, well, what's going on with the numbers? What are we doing? We're making people angry. Noisy Steam Tunnels is the name of my old folk band's second album. Noisy Steam Tunnels. That's a very particular kind of music. I don't know if I'd buy that album. I think it'd be like a lot of like maracas and an album called Noisy Steam Tunnels. Why do only DC and Baltimore have sewers that blow hell fumes into the street? I think there are other cities that do that. I mean, you don't want your sewers exploding underground. In fact, I know very specifically several other cities have, sewer venting systems. Nightbot, your responses here are profoundly unhelpful to answering the questions, but I appreciate the effort. Why do ducks make great detectives? They always quack the case. Well, that's pretty so-so as a joke. Reggie? Reggie, thanks for stopping by. Yes, morning. Have a good one. Yeah, we're not going to be on for particularly long here, but running toward the cries of injustice. Oh, this is about abortion. This is like somebody very upset about abortion. That's an aborted fetus with its skull cracked open. Well, that's sad. Do the marble stairs show where? I guess I have to walk back and check. I didn't really think so. I thought they actually seemed like they're pretty good shape. Marble does not always keep up the best in very cold weather climates. DC is warm enough. Marble can do okay, but you know, sometimes you'll have kind of composite stone creations, not pure marble going on. I bet there's a secret underground military base right under DC, and you're walking on it and you never know it, says Jerry Carter. Well, there's definitely a thing under the Reagan building. There's definitely a thing under the Capitol building. There's definitely a thing under the White House. Secret underground military base, per se. Depends what you mean by that. I don't really know that there's a secret whole military base, like a big, giant underground, you know, big, like, cavernous bunker thing with a whole bunch of, like, tanks in it. I actually think sometimes people think the government is, like, a little more sophisticated than it is. Let's see. Nimrowski, do you think there will be boots on the ground in Iran? Well, it depends what we decide to do here. I'm starting to trend on the side of, like, we're going to do something. And I suspect it will not be boots on the ground. I suspect it will be a sustained aerial bombing campaign, like the most aggressive and ambitious effort to take out, like, a lot of Iran's senior leadership and bomb a tremendous number of sites. But I would guess, and you're asking me, like, you know, world's greatest armchair military land speculator. I'm going to guess no boots on the ground right now, but I'm going to guess we're going to bomb the smithereens out of them. And then, like, see what happens, because, you know, you never know. You never know. And that's the exciting part about bombing Iran is you bomb Iran, and then what happens next? Nobody knows. Les Wexner sounds like the name of an evil antagonist of Superman. Yeah, like, sometimes you get these things that just sound like they're evil. Les Wexner and Bain Capital. Sometimes it's like, hey, rich people, like, you know, read the room a little bit. Like, if you're gonna be some, like, evil, nefarious rich guy with, like, lots of money who's, like, starving companies to line your pockets, like, maybe don't name yourself Les Wexner, or name your venture capital company Bain Capital. Les Wexner and Bain Capital are not related, but come on, Mitt. Like, if you're gonna run for president someday, you can't have been, like, the chairman of Bain Capital. It sounds like a Superman, it's like evil, you know, it's like the Scooby-Doo villain that gets unmasked at the end of the episode. Not boots, maybe shoes. I mean, I would assume they would put them in boots. So, you know, there was that big Louvre, the heist at the Louvre, I don't know, a couple of months ago, when thieves brazenly in the broad daylight backed up a truck, lined up a ladder, broke into the Louvre in a second-story gallery and stole a whole bunch of stuff, including the crown of the wife of Napoleon. They just arrested like 9 more people associated with that, the Louvre heist. Now, to be clear here, like, since this is a public video, I have no intentions of doing anything nefarious here, but it does like cross my mind sometimes. It's like, well, you know, if you were plotting something, because this is the National Gallery of Art here in DC. This is like, it might be my favorite Smithsonian museum. This is the old West Wing of the National Gallery of Art. It's where the Impressionist collection is. It's where all the William Turner great, British seascapes are. It's where all the sort of great 19th century American art is. They've got a great sculpture collection. Lots of Monets, and there was a lot of art that was in the White House in the past. It's a beautiful building. It's a beautiful art collection, and it's like the really classic stuff. It's great historic art, as opposed to this, which is the East Wing, which is like more modern art. It's like, okay, if I were those Louvre guys, the Louvre is one thing because there's windows everywhere. But you're looking at this building. This is a much more challenging thing because it's a big solid facade. There's no windows. So what's the plan here? What would you even do? It's got big walls around the outside. Looks like there's big plants on top of the walls, and there's a gap, and then there's the. But I don't know. I don't really have anything in mind. Maybe it's free to go visit it, so you could just visit it for free. Then you wouldn't get to, I guess, resell the art on the internet. You probably can't resell art you stole from the Louvre on the internet. You probably have to go sneak it around and then sell it on a black market somewhere. I mean, I guess probably if you were gonna there's windows on the ground floor there. I mean, there is. So this is the East Wing has more windows over there, and this is atrium. This is a big underground atrium that goes from this building over to this building. There's a cafeteria right under our feet right now. There's a giant cafeteria, and there's a set of moving sidewalks that go between the two museums. It's actually something we should stream someday. Someday when we're out and about, on a weekend. It would be interesting to walk some of that stuff. But you can see in down there. I guess you probably go in through here. You just kind of pop one of those glass panels off. That's how you get in. Then how do you get the art out? I don't know. Sneak it up to these air vents or something. Would you rather talk to an inverse version of yourself or a duplicate yourself? An inverse version of yourself where you're an insect, where the skeleton is on the outside? That'd be a really weird thing. I think talking to a duplicate version of myself would be interesting. Because it's not like having a sibling. It's like having a twin that's I don't have an identical twin. Or do I? I don't know. Maybe I do. But I don't believe I have an identical twin, at least for the purposes of this video. And so I guess I would be kind of interested to meet an identical version of myself and see how we would get along and feel each other out, and who would sort of win a battle of wits. They were not part of the Louvre heist. These 9 were doing a scam of tour guide prices, says Jeanette. They cheated them out of millions over 10 years. Okay, so I didn't read the article. I read headlines, so I appreciate that. The Louvre was a bit of a disaster. It was a bit of a disaster even before the whole thing broke with the break-in. The Louvre's had some issues here for a while. They have crowds that are far bigger than they can manage, and they just aren't very organized about it. Their staff is also highly unionized because it's France, and they just everybody goes on strike all the time, and so people don't show up for work. Complaining they have to work too hard. They can't manage all the people. Everyone's just going to go see the Mona Lisa anyway. Nobody cares about the rest of the art there, even though it's the largest art museum in the world. People only go to see the Mona Lisa, and it creates a giant boondoggle of people just crashing in on the Mona Lisa. And so they're doing like a big project to try to like renovate the museum so you can go there and just pay to see just the Mona Lisa, which is crazy. You pay like a whole extra like 30 euros just to see the Mona Lisa. Whole wing of the museum, it has one painting in it. Yeah, the Louvre's a mess. Like, if you go to Paris, like, I would frankly recommend like not to go to the Louvre because it is such a mess. Okay, 43. Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's all relative, I guess. 43 is cold, but it's not as cold as it has been. It's the Canadian Embassy. Being all Canadian. I guess the U.S. and Canada are going to play for the hockey gold here next few days. The Canadian Embassy finally got rid of their weird, like neon "Enjoy Diversity" little door sign with like a half unwrapped candy bar on it. That was like one of the weirdest things in DC that everybody else ever seemed to comment on, which I thought was really weird. Enjoy diversity with like a half unwrapped candy bar on it. Like, what does that mean? Like, you know, it's like diversity can be a strength. You get diverse perspectives, you support people's autonomy from diverse backgrounds. But like, nobody says enjoy diversity. Like, what does that even mean? It's just weird phrasing. Here's America's educational industrial complex at work. This used to be the Newseum, which is a museum dedicated to the history of news, which was kind of an interesting concept. They used to have front pages of all of the America's newspapers out in front of the Newseum, which was kind of fun. They would put them out every day. The museum went bankrupt. Owning real estate on Pennsylvania Avenue is expensive, believe it or not. And the building was bought by Johns Hopkins University, which is based up in Baltimore, but runs now this very, very, very fancy educational center so that they can charge their students an arm and a leg to come spend a semester in DC and, I guess, pretend to be close to policymakers and whatnot. Man, every time I look in there, it's like very, very, very fancy. It's like, I don't know, when you're 18 to 21, do you need to live in an environment that upscale? Do you need to be coddled that much? Like, it's the point of your life where you have contributed the least and sucked up the most resources. It's the time of your life when you should be sort of like living the leanest existence possible. Plus, you're young, you can handle it. Like, before you start putting some actual, like, skin in the game. But no, we've turned our universities into country clubs. Canada has gone rogue. What makes everyone think that Canada's so polite and nice? I never really thought that Canada was that polite and nice to begin with. Like, I mean, for years. I always felt like, you know, there's sort of a thing with Canada and people from Canada. There's like a weird defensiveness. But yeah, Canada's off to another thing. Why is Canada not better at the Winter Olympics, by the way? Like, I mean, they're good at it, but you look at, like, Norway. Norway has 5 million people, and they're leading the medal table. Like, Canada, people live in the ice. Like, everyone lives in ice and snow up there. So they're at the top of the world. Like, you would think they would be better at it. They've got close to 50 million people living in that country. And yet they're nowhere near the top of the medal table. Be nice to our 51st state. I'm going to upload a video in the coming days. I've recorded a lot of videos I just haven't uploaded yet. But I'm going to record a video, or I'm going to upload a video, in which I talk about a sort of sneaky path that America can take to unlocking our 51st state. It's a little bit different than maybe the past that you've been thinking about. We're going to dangle that out there. We're gonna unleash the secret to America's 51st state in the coming days. So all the more reason to be subscribed to Land Speculation here on YouTube. And make sure you're doing what it takes to be part of the Land Speculation family. Look at this. I don't know what used to be in here, but whatever entity used to be in here has now vacated this space. You want Pennsylvania Avenue real estate? This is kind of a nice big space here. Everything's vacant here. What's going on in downtown DC? That space is empty. Is this space empty too? Or this is a reflection. It's a weird empty space here. Give Minnesota to Canada. We'll take Alberta. Okay, so we're playing like trading cards now. States and territories. Canada is home to over 200 ski resorts and areas with estimates ranging from roughly 200 to over 280 spread across the country from British Columbia to Quebec. So yeah, everybody's skiing in Canada all the time, but yet the Scandinavian countries are kicking their ass in the Winter Olympics. Like, in America, like most of us don't, spend a lot of our lives doing the 500 meter speed skate. So I'll give us a pass on the Winter Olympics a little bit here. But Canada, you have no excuse. You live in the ice and snow. You should be better at this. I still want to meet the intern who managed to convince somebody running the District of Columbia that it would be fun here in this little plaza near Indiana Avenue to set up an entire exhibit dedicated to showcasing the different plants of different quadrants of Indiana. Because this was proposed by some intern that was just trying to be silly, but the government is so ineptly run that they proposed this, and somebody was like, wow, that sounds like a really fun, creative idea. We could showcase all the different plants of Indiana, one of the most exciting vegetation environments in the world. And so they did. They created boxes and boxes of planters to showcase all of the boring, ordinary grasses and weeds of Indiana. And I don't mind it. I just find it amusing because it's, as a big fan of the state of Indiana in general, I think it's great that we have things like this. Pork on some bill, I'm sure. I mean, if we're going to have giant pork bills, if we're going to spend, make these $800 trillion bills, no, that would be a really large number. $800 billion bills, $1.6 trillion bills. If you're going to have bills that are just full of stupid pork projects, fill them up with a whole bunch of fun spam. And I think, whatever this cost the American taxpayer, probably tens of millions of dollars to do this, was a great investment of our collective resources. See, here are the weeds and grasses of South Central Indiana. Look at this. It's weeds and such. There you got some other little just grasses and stuff. And then what are we looking at here? This is southwestern Indiana, where the vegetation has changed quite dramatically to this. And then this is far southwestern Indiana, where you get these big other kinds of dead weeds that look like this. Yeah, I think this was like well worth our collective tax dollars investing in. This is one of my favorite exhibits in all of DC. Usually there are a lot of rats over here, not so much right now. Maybe they're sleeping. Did Land ever make a silly suggestion as an intern in Washington, D.C.? Well, I once was an intern in Washington, D.C., and I did do something very silly as an intern in Washington, D.C. that I can't tell anybody about, that I suspect is still in place, and which maybe someday on a voice call or something I will tell somebody about. But I don't think it'd be particularly, like, it's nothing bad per se. It was just very silly. I did do something silly as an intern once. It's kind of strange being in a large city, having nobody around and almost no noise. Yeah, downtown DC is a little weird at night. A little more activity than during the snow nights, and a little bit of rogue shouting, which makes me feel right at home. It's sort of interesting being able to, like, just look right into these stores. There's a Starbucks that is completely empty right now. And as usual, we still have this newspaper box where you can quite literally buy the propaganda of the Chinese Communist Party here very prominently on Pennsylvania Avenue in downtown Washington, D.C. Xi's message of strength, optimism resonates globally. Didn't you know that that's the news of the day? That President Xi of China's message of strength and optimism is what everyone around the world is talking about? This is not like, oh, some little startup newspaper in the US, reporting things about China. This is quite literally the state apparatus of the Chinese Communist Party, printing newspapers that is literally their propaganda arm for the Communist Party. And they have set up like an old school newspaper box here in the heart of downtown. We put a quarter in to get a newspaper. And I'm trying to like see in there, do they even have like actual real copies of the newspaper? Because like who the hell is carrying on quarters these days? Do people carry on quarters and like get newspapers out of newspaper boxes? Like what is going on here? What is the purpose? What are they actually up to? I am tempted to go scrounge up a quarter. Yeah, see, okay, right at home. right at home. Well, I hope everyone's okay. There's Kinko's. Fancy Mexican restaurant. Quite a liquor collection. This is a weird staircase. One of the interesting things about this building is you go up a couple flights of stairs, there is a Freemason lounge. The Freemasons nefariously operate, I believe, out of that building here in Washington, D.C. Allegedly. This is the Independent Order of Odd Fellows Temple. A Chinese Peruvian restaurant, because why not? Carmine's, where you can get giant family-style Italian dishes made for 4 while sitting at a table of 2. And there is no other ordering option. Meatballs. Okay, there's, it's like penne, looks like. Here we go. Wow, she's very excited by that spaghetti. She is stunned. Here is the Clara Barton historical site. Clara Barton is one of those people in history that nobody really knows what she did or who she is, but everyone knows the name. Clara Barton, Susan B. Anthony, Betsy Ross. They're just some of these people from history. Leif Erikson. Nobody quite knows what they did, why they existed, what they were up to, etc. Do you like calamari? Yeah, it's good. It's it depends how it gets prepared, but generally pro calamari. I've been to a Turkish prison. No, I have not been to a Turkish prison. I have been to other prisons. But not a Turkish one. Oh, hey, we hit an hour. Okay, so, guys, if you haven't dropped a like or subscribe on the video, appreciate that. Those likes help us out with YouTube. The subscribe so you know when we're on. Check the description. Link to our Discord, our Duck Fund, our sister channel, Land Ducks International. Appreciate the work of our mods here tonight. Quiet and Jeanette finding us here very late at night. I was gonna go earlier tonight. I literally was asleep. And I woke up in the middle of the night. I was like, why not? Why not go in the middle of the night and see who's awake? So the winner here is Quiet Castle. Congratulations to Quiet Castle on winning tonight's stream. Village and Axe saw a good movie tonight called The Woman in Cabin 10. Cabin 10 is a boys' cabin, and so it was very jarring to the young men at the camp to have a woman in their cabin, but you know, it was also kind of exciting for them. That's what I assume the plot of the movie is. So, congratulations to Quiet on your victory. Yes, that probably was a dinosaur roar from around the corner, but time's up, so we're not going to find out if there are dinosaurs lurking the streets of Washington, D.C. Oh, well. Viliginac is our other winner here tonight. So, Viliginac and Quiet Castle will split the 3 cents. Presume they will each take 1 penny and then play a game of dice to figure out who collects the other penny. So we'll live stream their game of dice on a future episode of Land Speculation. So that's why you want to be subscribed to our channel and whatnot. So anyway, appreciate it, guys. I appreciate you hanging out with us, finding us late. Thanks to our mods as always. Do all the like and the subscribe stuff, and you know, hang out with everybody on the Discord, and we'll be back. We got a lot of stuff to upload, and then more lives up and coming with more interesting stuff. We'll be able to pre-plan some content and things like that. So lots to come. Don't be strangers. We'll be back. This is Land, that ancient speculation. For now, I hope you all have a good night.